Who dumped a whole truckload of fizzies into the swim meet? Who delivered the medical school cadavers to the alumni dinner? Every Halloween, the trees are filled with underwear. Every spring, the toilets explode.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brand John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is the 29th of January. John Combest, could that be correct? 29th?
I'm so happy it's Thursday.
We're almost done with January. How can that be?
Thank goodness, Brad. The good thing is we all saved a lot of money because we haven't been running our heater all month long, right? Like, I can't wait to get my February gas bill.
No, hold on a minute. Didn't you have that guy who I think I don't know why he's working for Spire as like just a comms guy, but I think he's like in Mensa. He has like a 320 IQ or something like that. And he came out with a recent statement that said, because the temperatures are colder, people's gas bills might be higher because they're running their furnaces and space heaters more. Is that essentially what he said, John?
He won the Nobel Peace Prize for physics in describing the way that works, Brad. Now, luckily for me, 30 years ago, I imagined that a guy in a courtroom told me to F off, and I changed all my gas appliances.
That was me.
And in fact, I had 207 family members and friends change too. I really stuck it to Laclede gas.
Yes, an attorney in a courtroom told me to F off and to F myself because they sued me. And I think the bill was like for, I don't know, $120 or something like that because I had a defective gas meter and they would never own up to it. But that's a whole nother story. Okay, that is John Combest, C-O-M-B-S-T. It's amazing how we start this show off. And by the way, John, talking of comms...
By the way, Brad...
BTW, I made contact with a very nice woman who is a comms woman for Mercy Hospital System yesterday. She called me back and sent me an email. And if you want, we'll talk about that in B Block.
That sounds awesome, Brad. Way to go. First of all, my shock here that you actually followed through on anything you said you were going to do. Let me sit down for a moment. Wow. And also, it goes to show Mercy clearly doesn't have a lot to do coming out of a snowpack. Yes. If somebody who works in their comms group has time to respond to you, Brad. So that's awesome. And shout out to that Mercy woman.
Well, one other little aspect of it is they have so many comms people. You go to their website. There's like, and I'm not kidding, there's probably 15 different comms people. You have to pick the right one. I picked the wrong one, and he forwarded my voicemail to the right one. So those Mercy people are taking care of me. Okay, so that is John Combest. Every single day of his life, he puts together this incredible website that chronicles all the important stuff you should know in the state of Missouri. Nothing fancy. If you look at it, you may say, wow, this sort of looks like web. What version, John?
0.0.
Did you hear Dean Wormer at the top of the show there?
I did. I love that. Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is this guy. I saw a video of this guy, and he gets on a plane, and he says he sees the actor who played Dean Wormer, and he yells out in the plane. Dean's already in a seat. I can't remember his real name, the actor. And as he goes by the seat, he points up, he goes, Dean Wormer. And the actor who plays Dean Wormer says, you know, I played other roles, which I thought is funny.
That's true, Brad.
Okay, so every single day, John puts together this incredible list, which is essentially just nothing but links to important stories you should know about. But there's so many there that if you have, if you have a stage 1 ADD, I'm on stage 9. Stage 10 would be totally dysfunctional. I'm almost totally dysfunctional. But even if you had stage 1 ADD, you may go, oh, too many links. So you may say, I wish somebody would put something together like this. So we happen to have a guy, your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he has a solution to all those links on the johncombest.com website. And what does he do? He counts them down.
In third place.
Brad, before you unwrap your Little Debbie snack cake in your ceremonial process and shove it down your gullet. Oh, I love to hear that crinkle, Brad. Before you do that, I want you to guess in a multiple choice fashion who this quote came from. We're going to see how sharp you are at 7:08 a.m. The quote, I say blow the whole thing wide open. Now, here's the options. Was it Brad's surgeon before gallbladder surgery? Was it two effeminate men at Klondike Park exploring sinkholes? And for the record, I said sinkholes. There's no T in sinkhole. I just said sinkhole. I didn't put a T in there. Were they exploring sinkholes? Or was it Brad Hildebrand roughly once a week when we discuss cannabis, hemp, and marijuana?
Oh, could it be C?
It is C, Brad. Excellent guess. And for that, you win some high glycemic food and a soft drink that a man your age should not be consuming.
I already got it right here, John.
Come again?
I said I already have it right here. I don't need to win it.
I bet you. Remember when you went through that phase when you were pretending like you were going to keep having muscle milk every day?
I do. I have it every day.
Yeah, I bet you do. Okay, so this headline's brought to us by Jack Suntrup of the Post-Dispatch. Cannabis companies accuse smoke shops of unfair competition in St. Louis County suit. Now, to use a phrase that Brad has never used, here we go again. A new legal battle is pitting state licensed marijuana companies against St. Louis County smoke shops that are selling their own cannabis products. I think our listeners know where we're going with this, Brad. A coalition of state licensed companies. So these are all the people that went about it the right way. They sued on Friday over 24 smoke shops in St. Louis County, accusing that second group of smoke shops of unfair competition by trafficking high-potency marijuana without a state license and without regard to state law. Now, if we ask an AI machine to recreate this, it would probably sound like, hey, bro, look, man, this is our corner, bro. Why don't you go down the street and sell down there, man? It's really not fair. The lawsuit says the high THC marijuana products being trafficked are, quote, disguised as industrial hemp. Now, this goes back to something that you and I have discussed since 2024 on the show. And the definition of marijuana versus hemp is just determined on what the THC content is, man. And as long as you have a delineation there that's a little bit, I don't know, fuzzy or confusing, or as long as you allow one group to market their hemp as legal and the others to market their marijuana as legal, you're going to have groups like this competing with each other and people parsing the language, so to speak. So let's get to the whole crux of this thing. The lawsuit says those unlicensed sellers, so think about those smoke shops in St. Louis County, they violated the law because they're openly advertising these hemp products. And the plaintiffs say, and my words here, Brad, they say, look, these companies are selling stuff that will get you high, and they're infringing, I should say, on our ability to say officially licensed marijuana products. So before we get into the discussion, Brad, we'll just name where some of these smoke shops are. First of all, the plaintiffs are Proper Cannabis. That was that group that's making all of Rock Hill stinky, Brad. Do you remember the stinky story? Yeah.
Well, it's still to the point where I don't understand how the crop can stink and other crops don't. Remember, we talked about this because you're the guy that's been literally, up to your earlobes.
In the field, Brad. And sorry to cut you off, but it's kind of like the story that St. Louis local media does every year when they have the tree that smells like, how do we say this politely? A male reproductive fluid.
Okay, whatever.
Well, you remember that story, right, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we all know the different trees and different plants smell differently. So that's the answer. So as I was saying, Brad, the name of some of these smoke shops include Area 51 STL. Bro, you probably seen them. They got like an alien as a logo, man. Astro Smoke Shop. And despite the name, they are not in Houston. They are here in St. Louis County. Cloud Smoke Shop, Discount Smoke Station, and here's a good one, iPuff. Hey, man. Let's go to iPuff. Brad, I think you'll be shocked to know that all of these shops are on Telegraph Road. Can you believe smoke shops in South St. Louis County, Brad? Can you imagine stepping out of your car in a parking lot off Telegraph Road and setting, in your case, an orthotic doctor-prescribed shoe down amid like a parking lot full of burnt-out camels and unknown bodily fluid? Anyway, others include Smoke Shop in U City, one in Florissant, Breckenridge Hills, Deep Pear. So you got a lot of Hoosier areas, you got some black areas, and then you have decent areas like there's a store called Vapor 100 in Baldwin. So the idea behind this is another lawsuit, and one of the companies here is a well-known company named American Shaman. So Nick Porto is an attorney for one of the defendants, which is American Shaman. They declined to comment on the lawsuit. So American Shaman is well known for a lot of, I guess you could put some of them, I don't know if you could put them in the psychedelic realm, but certainly they're involved in the drug market. I think it's fair to say. So Brad, to quote you, St. Louis Media Hall of Famer Brad Hildebrand, here we go again. And until we get a clear definition of who can sell intoxicating products and who cannot, and until we just blow the whole thing open, we're going to keep having these lawsuits.
Is this akin to the gray, what do you call it, gambling terminals in the gas stations where
the video lottery terminals. Yeah, you make a good analogy, Brad. And I think where you're going there is that why don't we define this more clearly? And do we not have one group that's making a lot of money that's mad that another group is coming in and also making money?
So the St. Louis County Vice Squad, I don't know if they have one or not. We should call Jason Law, see if they got a Vice Squad in St. Louis County. Would they not go in and raid these places?
They would not, because both Crockett and Tubbs have checked in the Delmar Gardens. They actually have a 3-person suite, and in 2027, Steve Ellman's going to move.
Listen to you. Okay, we won't go any further than that. It's time for number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
When we get off the air today at roughly 8 a.m., or by the way that we're going today, Brad, it'll be like 8:30. By the time we get off the air in Jefferson City, the Department of Natural Resources officials will hear testimony at a House hearing in Jeff City about, hold on one second, let me get this right in front of me. Pardon me for not having this here. Department of Natural Resources officials will hear testimony during a House Committee on Government Efficiency hearing. You say, John, boring. Who cares about any of this? Brad, this is strangely and uniquely someone doing something about toxic landfills in Franklin County. You will remember we've discussed Jim Roberts, a gentleman that's had a run-in with a toxic landfill. The Zykin family owned this toxic landfill in Franklin County. And Mr. Zykin said, whoa, I'm getting the heck out of the United States. I'm not dealing with this literal crud. So Brad Banderman, the state representative from St. Clair, has sponsored a bill. And according to St. Louis Public Radio, some recycling groups are not happy about it, Brad. Here's what the bill would do. He said he wrote the legislation. He, being Brad Banderman, wrote the legislation because there wasn't a way to deal with these abandoned landfills. And what would happen is what his bill would do, it would dissolve all the solid waste management districts across Missouri that are aimed at, they're divided into 20 solid waste management districts, and they're funded by user fees on landfills. Those districts plan all these recycling programs, and they give money to local groups to help encourage people to recycle and things like that. And if you dissolve those groups, the responsibility of grant funding would go to a state level. So you can understand, Brad, if you're a local group that's paid to promote recycling and encourage recycling, and that decision was made by your buddy in St. Louis City or your buddy in St. Louis County, and now that decision for funding is going to go to Jeff City, you don't know anybody at the state level. P.S., there are a bunch of Republicans there. You're not going to get any money. So as you can imagine, there's a group called Earth Day 365. They don't like this at all. They think it sucks because they don't want decisions like this to be made and Jeff City. So Brad Banderman's bill will be discussed today. And pardon me earlier for getting that wrong. I want to repeat that again. It's the House Committee on Government Efficiency hearing today at 8 a.m. And Missouri DNR will be there as well. You will recall, Brad, that Jim Roberts has said he can't seem to get any reasonable, actionable answers from Missouri DNR. And in fact, the only people who are at all helpful are three: Josh Hawley's office, Ann Wagner's office, and State Senator Ben Brown himself. What do you think, Brad?
First off, Jim Roberts, you asked me about this. I can't find his phone number. Him and I talked on the phone once or twice, and remember, we were going to get him on the air, but he had a problem with getting his kids to school, and we couldn't fit him into the schedule. Jim, I lost your phone number. If you're listening, or if you're one of your friends that's listening, get a hold of Jim. My phone number, 314-280-8880. That's my cell and my phone number. Call me, text me, and we'll get your number. Now, Brad, or John, I'm Brad.
You are Brad, and you're the co-lead Brad of the story.
Right. Okay. The co-lead, yeah, except a different last name. I will make this announcement right now. Anybody who is against a data center or a toxic waste dump that claims that their property is worthless, I will be more than happy to buy your property. Jim, out there in Franklin County, I'll put your problems to an end. I will buy your property because being that I'm 90 years old and I have one foot in the grave and the other foot in a banana peel, I don't care what disease I get because I'm going to die pretty damn soon anyway. So I want to live out my life. And this also goes for property at the end of runways, at airports, next to trash dumps.
Next to a data center, that loud humming.
Right, next to a data center. I'll take your property. Just sign it over to me. I don't have a problem. I'll build a place there. I'll bring one of my cows and put it there. And we'll broadcast the show live and
Brad,
direct.
you are not supposed to speak of your exes on the air.
Cellular on wheels, John. That's a cow. Okay, you ready for number one?
Let's do it.
The number one.
Speaking of wanting to buy property here in Missouri, I have a confusing headline that I really want you to walk me through this, Brad. Jacob Barker of the Post-Dispatch has a headline that I just can't understand. He analyzes census numbers, and he says Missouri adds residents despite aging population and a drop in immigration. I don't understand this. He says more people than usual moved to Missouri from elsewhere in the country, helping boost Missouri's estimated population to just over $6.27 million. So what's crazy about this is we have people inside the United States choosing to move to Missouri, and we have a decrease in immigration of people coming into the United States and to Missouri. So Mr. Ness Sandoval, he's quoted in a lot of these articles. He's a demographer at SLU, and he says domestic migration is up. Now, Brad, the reason why I say this is confusing is I linked today to two stories within the last year from the progressive blog called Missouri Independent. Brad, you're familiar with the Independent, right? John, yes, you are.
John,
you sometimes refer to them as some sort of a newspaper, and they're not. They're an online progressive blog.
Aren't they legitimate?
Go ahead, Brad.
Aren't they legitimate?
They are a top progressive blog, yeah, and they employ some people that used to be newspaper reporters. You're right about that. They have a guy named Rudy Keller, who was a really good newspaper reporter for decades. They have a guy named Jason Hancock,
John,
who made his... Go ahead, Brad.
Then what's the difference between the Missouri Independent and St. Louis Public Radio?
Well, because... So, I mean, at 7:22, Brad, I'm not going to explain the difference between a blog and a radio station. So Missouri Independent is not on the air. They're not on television, radio. They don't do broadcast, and they don't produce a newspaper. But they do produce a really high-profile blog. So thanks for that question, Brad. So two headlines in the last year from the Missouri Independent. One was just 2 months ago in November. The headline read, Missouri's anti-LGBTQ laws linked to population loss and decline in state revenue, studies find. And then one from last February said, as Republicans push to make laws restricting transgender minors, a state rep Emily Weber, a Democrat from Kansas City, she said that the legislation is driving people out of the state. And Brad, I didn't want to clutter my website today with a whole bunch of old links, but I found stories from 2023, which from St. Louis television stations, including KSDK, said that Missouri's anti-transgender laws and the efforts against gender-affirming care were driving people out of Missouri, and business leaders know this is going to cause an exodus from the state of Missouri. It would seem to prove that numbers don't care about your ideology. And what's the phrase, Brad? Facts don't care about your feelings. If Missouri has so many anti-LGBTQIA asterisk laws and they're driving people away, then why is Missouri's population increasing?
I think they're here for White Castle because they're not in a lot of states.
Yeah, they're probably here for that, and maybe a little bit of Del Taco. And they also flock to that Naugles right off of Dunn Road.
Yeah.
You get off at Bell Fountain, you make a right, it's right there.
Hey, I love Naugles. And matter of fact, if you ever saw their little thing inside, they had a picture of Dick Naugle, who was the head of Naugles. And he says, Dick Naugle says, and there were things that were the sayings of the company, and people used to write other stuff on it, but that's a whole nother story.
I know. And the funniest thing is you tried to give that to a number of women, and they said, "We don't send us your dick pic." A picture of Richard, Mr. Dick from Naugles. Yeah. And you kept sending it to women unsolicited, and they're like, Brad, we don't want to go to the court again and ask for another restraining order.
Yeah. Yeah, those TROs are I've got them stacked up here at my office. Okay, John, we ready for the B block, which is coming up next?
Yeah, I especially want an update later about Mercy Healthcare and their data center.
That's coming up